one was scared. I mean, I was scared. I can tell you that it was 3 or 4 years before I spun. Not because I was that great, but because I was frightened if I spun I'd hit the side and turn over, and I might hurt myself seriously. And I think that one needs to reserve a certain amount of fear, because it is an important quality, I think, the control of your fear and the ability to be able to drive faster than another man without frightening yourself. In other words, you manage to get your limit up here. I think motor racing has to have an element of danger to stop people like you, if you like, who say, well, God, I'd like to get out of the car. You wouldn't want to get in the car if you thought, Christ, this is really dangerous. And I mean, racing drivers have to be a bit different to the other people.
Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. And today, finally, another tabletop review with the white gloves. I do apologize, it's been a little while, but I do appreciate everybody being so supportive because I can't obviously film these when I'm in the middle of moving from one apartment to the other. It's just so complicated. But anyway, thank you for allowing me a little bit of time, and what better way to start a new series of tabletop reviews than with an exclusive. Yes, this is the 1962 from Dan Henry. Now, I should do a wristwatch check before I completely forget, of course. In honor of Dan, I'm actually wearing my, 1964, that was it. I almost forgot. My God, that would have been terrible. But yeah, this was unequivocally one of the best. No, actually, I'll scrap that. It was the best micro-brand chronograph of last year, 2018. Now in 2019, Dan's done it again. Well, let's see if he's done it again, because he's sent in 3 variations of his new racing watch. I should be clear, there are 6 versions in total, a choice of either date or no date. Now, if you're not familiar with Dan Henry, let me just explain a little bit of history. Dan Henry is a world-renowned watch collector. Apparently, according to his Wikipedia page, yep, he has a Wikipedia page. That's how important he is. He has amassed, I think, about 1,500 watches. He also started Timeline.watch, which is an amazing website. If you are into watches, it is, well, a paradise. It's just a wonderful resource of a chronological kind of encyclopedia of watches, many of which are from his own collection. It's just amazing. So Dan Henry started his brand in 2016. And he's become somebody I deeply admire, and brought something new to the table, enticing designs that really speak to enthusiasts predominantly, because we don't all have, Daytona money or Eric Clapton Universal Geneve money, so I think this is really, really needed. And I had the pleasure of meeting him when he was here in New York for a show. He is one of the most charming, down-to-earth, incredible knowledge. And he doesn't have that arrogant kind of supercilious attitude that so many watch collectors, especially of that caliber, seem to have, which is just refreshing. Actually, he's become a bit of a hero for me. I mean, and in a moment you'll probably see why, because he puts so much passion and detail into the watches, and you really feel it. Anyway, so now my pick of the bunch is definitely the Panda. There's the Evil Panda here, and then of course there's a blue version, which surprisingly didn't really tickle my fancy. You know what, let's just start with the dimensions. I feel a bit rusty. I haven't done a tabletop review in a little while. It's nice to get the setup all going again. So the diameter is 39 millimeters. I should point out it actually wears a little bit less because it has a UFO overhang very similar to the Speedy. We'll discuss all of the influences in just a moment. Lug to lug, we're looking at 45.5. Height is 13.3. And then we have a lug width of 20 millimeters. So a very classic size, period correct, you could say. I absolutely adore the Panda. This is, so we have an entirely stainless steel case, beautifully down pointing, twisted lugs there. very Speedmaster-esque. Of course, the bezel. You could say Universal Compax too. The hands are very Universal Compax. On the white dial, which is a matte, we have these kind of blocky. He describes them as dolphin hands, but to me, they're very Universal Geneve Compax. And then a wonderful V-shaped layout to the subdials. I love the little piston head markers there on the actual seconds at the 6 o'clock. Very Daytona 6239. If you remember, we had one on the channel a long time ago now, the classic Paul Newman. We have a tachometer there that is almost identical to the Speedmaster. Little baton markers with lume. We have lumen over there. It is very diminutive, but quite responsive. And what I love is the orientation is there, because you got double lume pip, and the hands on the subdials are also loomed up with tiny little lume added to the actual hands of the main watch as well, which is fantastic. Now, this is the date version, as you can see. Something that is really cool. If I pull out the crown, if I go to the 31st, there you go. You see it has the 31st printed in red. This is a feature you see primarily on premium watches of the era, as a reminder to change the date during the months that are only 30 days, of course. That's why it's in red. But what is interesting, and what I really appreciate about Dan's attention to detail, is that this requires many more layers of additional work on the date wheel there. So he has spared no expense. The subdials have wonderful little concentric circle details. This version with the matte black dial has silver subdials. The applied markers are silver battens, silver hands this time as well. You can really get a sense of precision with reading the watch, because you've got minutes and second scale running around the outside of the dial. An absolutely beguiling K1 mineral double domed with anti-reflective treatment. Yes, it's probably going to get some flack, but guys, this is, well, we'll discuss value in just a moment, but I think it gives you that really vintage feel, especially in looking at it at an angle. The polishing is exquisite for a watch this price, I have to say. We have brushed sides and then high polish on the top. On the back, now this is where it really gets interesting, we have the Maserati Tipo 60 from the early 60s. Of course, a little nod to the name of the watch and its racing inspiration. Now, if you remember on my 1964 there, we had the Aston Martin, the Bond Aston Martin, of course. And I love this little extra bit of decoration, you could say. Dan always picks something that is very fitting to the watch. The Maserati Tipo 61 is commonly referred to as the Maserati birdcage because it has a very intricate tubular space frame chassis containing about 200 tubes welded together, and hence the nickname. It was a method of construction that provided a very rigid, but at the same time a lighter chassis, and was, way ahead of its time. But most importantly, in 1959, Sterling Moss won his first race driving one of these. And obviously, I love that kind of little link to a British racing legend. It's a very endearing nod to automotive history there. It's wonderfully embossed and raised, contrasted by the bead blasted finish. I like the scalloped edge of the screw back there to the case. Very cool indeed. Actually reminds me a little bit of like the Navitimer. So what do we have inside? Well, we got the VK63, which of course is made by Seiko. The battery life is about 3 years. It's a super robust, affordable Mecha-quartz movement. So if we engage the chronograph, you'll see it has a bit of a sweep. It's a 1/5 of a second sweep. Records up to 60 minutes, and we have a 24-hour display here. It's accurate to about plus minus 20 seconds a month, which is fantastic. And the 24-hour dial is synchronous to the main time. So I'll show you on the Evil Panda. If I pull out the crown all the way, you can see it is hackable, of course. And this little red seconds hand on this particular version. Again, this is very Universal Geneve. Now they come on these straps. There's a choice of colors, obviously, to match the color scheme of the watch. I have to say he's definitely stepped up his game in terms of the straps. They're wonderfully supple, especially compared. Well, actually, these were great, but he's gone a little bit far beyond this time, and I think they are actually, yeah, they're made in France. Wonderfully stitched, very cleanly done, and of course you've got the bolt action spring bars there. That's not the official. That's just what I call them because they remind me of a bolt action on a rifle. So they're an absolute pleasure to swap out, very, very easy. And you're going to be doing that because certainly this version, or these two, I feel are the more strap monsters in the trio. And obviously you've got a perforated version here, which is in a cognac, stunning. And then the blue, I love that. I might actually take this and put it on something else, perhaps. Yeah, the blue of this particular version, it's not my cup of tea. It's a very vivid royal blue, very rich. Again, we have the lume, interestingly, in orange, which is a nice touch, and differentiation in the markers to kind of match the hands and what's going on here. I do love the blue bezel. It has a wonderful kind of gloss to it that adds a bit of richness. So let's pop it on the wrist and see how it wears. On my 6¼ wrist, it is absolute perfection. It is quite tall, but I have to say, I think if you sacrificed the height a little bit, you might lose some of that charm, and I'm willing to make do with the extra height because of that double dome crystal. It's just utterly beguiling, to be honest. The weight is 57 grams, so a smidgen heavier than its predecessor here, but very, very comfortable and, of course, legible. Well, this particular one is, in my opinion, the most legible because of the contrast of that crisp white with the black markers, the little applied batons there. So let's discuss the positives and negatives. Well, first of all, I think Dan once again has really managed to create a splendidly refined watch for the money. It's fun, it's affordable, it references some absolute classics in the best taste possible. I mean, he has fantastic taste, that's undeniable. You get the style of a glorious age. It's always going to be fashionable, it's always going to look good. I think the quality is tremendously impressive. I know a lot of people tend to question these $200, $300 quartz based chronographs, but the truth of the matter is that, and trust me, you can only know this from experience. I'm in the process of designing a fourth watch, and when you know all the costs involved, when you know how difficult it is to make components work cohesively with each other, and you have to coordinate with manufacturers, getting the polishing right, getting the right quality parts, the QC, the correct movement to work with the dial and the layout, etc., etc. There's so many variables. It's mind-boggling and incredibly difficult. Not to mention the costs of production, the shipping, the legal fees, the design, the research and development. It's a mammoth undertaking. So I think the price is absolutely spot on. I'm surprised it's actually not priced more. I think at the precise moment of recording this video on the website, it's $260. You get the canvas watch roll. So yeah, very, very impressive. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It evokes the racing age. I think the proportions magnificently superb. And the Mecha-quartz helps to give you a little bit more extra soul. Another big positive of a watch like this is you have none of the risk or upkeep costs of a Daytona of this era or a Universal Geneve. And those watches are going through the roof. I mean, okay, we all know the Daytona, the Paul Newman is big money, but the Universal Geneves are getting there. They really are. I also love the amalgamation of influences, a bit like how Dan took elements of the top time, of several Zenith references, a little bit of Daytona, mix them all together, but in a way that works effectively. Not just the blatant homage. This is designed by somebody that knows their watches, knows these references, knows design, and can effectively execute it. Also, you got the performance there. I mean, compared to vintage pieces, you just don't have to worry about it. So what are the negatives? Well, I've got to say, I find the crown quite difficult to access. I can never get my thumb under there. It's not the most ergonomic of crowns. I would have liked perhaps a little notch or something there, just to get it, easier. Oh, it is signed, by the way. I neglected to mention that. The other thing is I would have loved, and I know this is difficult because you'd have to find the correct movement, but I would love to have either a second time zone or a 12-hour counter. Maybe swap these around instead of a 24-hour display. This to me doesn't, it's a bit like my 64 there. I don't really find this useful unless you're an astronaut or going into caves and you don't know if it's night or day. I don't really use 24 hour. I mean, apart from setting the time, you figuring out, but then you see the date change. But anyway, and I know people are going to say, well, I'd have preferred an automatic, but this quality with this kind of case, it's going to push it into 1,000, probably even more. Because I know people always criticize, it's just an affordable quartz, and then you got all the reliability problems of the seagull movements that if you use a seagull chronograph, or if you go Swiss and add a Valjoux 7750, that's really going to push up the price. I mean, imagine the labor costs, assembly costs, the parts, all the rest of it. But yeah, that's about it. I think in conclusion, it's absolute pure class, undeniably. It's got a wonderful character to it. I'm definitely going to pick this one up, I think, with the no date. I think it's a cleaner look, and I don't know. I'm going to get the no date, and I can enjoy this and get my little fix of a Speedy without spending Speedy money, If I see somebody with a Dan Henry, they're either a watch enthusiast or, well, actually, they are a watch enthusiast. This is a brand for the watch enthusiast. Buy a watch enthusiast, maybe one of the world's biggest enthusiasts for enthusiasts, and I think that's really important. It's just fun, guys. They're just so fun. Anyway. Massive congrats to Dan Henry. Absolutely hit it out of the park once again. I'm not surprised. Outstanding. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Let me know your thoughts, queries, comments, opinions, all the rest of it down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful. And as always, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao. Now, before I go, guys, I just want to quickly tell you about this extremely cool app that Watchbox have launched. This is my own personal go-to app for everything watch-related. Using the app, you can keep track of the real-time value of your watch collection. You can store watches in your digital watch box and even try on watches using an augmented reality. So don't miss out, and please go to the App Store and download it today. You can access all of my latest videos right there in the app itself. And if you haven't already, please follow me on the official Urban Gentry Instagram and of course the Facebook UGWC. But most importantly of all, keep it positive, onwards and upwards.